49ers game preview show versus the Jets. It's going to be a great matchup. Aaron Rodgers returns to town. We're going to talk key matchups, bold predictions. Going to pick the winner of this game, all that and more in this episode of 49ers Cutback.
From the alley-oops at Keysar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. Team preview. And it doesn't get much bigger than this. San Francisco 49ers, Monday Night Football versus the Jets. And it's going to be a fun one. Anytime Aaron Rodgers comes to town, 49er fans just kind of stand up and get a little bit more excited about the potential of knocking off a player like Aaron Rodgers, a local guy. And so the 49ers know a lot about the New York Jets, from Robert Saleh to Jeff Ulbrich. And we're going to talk about all the coaches for sure in this matchup, because it's an interesting matchup between two teams that like to do similar things on offense and defense. And of course, there's plenty of differences as well, because one team has Nathaniel Hackett, and the other one has probably the greatest offensive mind in football today in Kyle Shanahan. So it's going to be one of those back and forth matchups in this. But I'm looking forward to going through, talking about some of the matchups, talking about some of the stats, and getting this thing figured out as we set ourselves up for a huge Monday Night Football game of the San Francisco 49ers versus the Jets. And I've been preparing for this all week, and this is going to be an exciting episode. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe, please give it a 5-star rating. If you're going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Bet Online is every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and share of $200,000. If the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. So when I do my game preview shows, I like to get a good feeling for who the coaches are, what their schemes are, and exactly how these teams plan to attack each other. So we look at the Jets coaching staff, and the first thing we notice is Robert Saleh is going to be leading this team onto the field. And Saleh is a great coach. We think very highly of him in San Francisco. Of course, all the great things he did as defensive coordinator, all gas, no breaks, just a fantastic individual, a leader of men, and a really good football coach. So we know that principles that he's going to instill in his team are going to be playing till the whistle, giving full effort, and he's going to be filled with a lot of passion. But also we know what he's going to do schematically. The defense hasn't varied a whole lot since he left San Francisco. They still run similar coverages. They run a lot more cover 4 now than they did when he left, but the 49ers trended that direction as well. Vic Fangio led the charge of that in 2018 with how he handled Sean McVay's Los Angeles Rams offense. And so now cover 4 is more prominent now than it's ever been in the NFL. So they're going to run a lot of that. They're going to still run some of their cover 3, and they're going to run cover 1. But the guy calling the defensive plays is going to be Jeff Ulbrich, former San Francisco 49er linebacker. And Ulbrich has done a very good job with this Jets defense. Him and Saleh have put together a good game plan week in and week out. Even though they had inefficiencies on offense last year, the defense still showed up and really played hard, played tough, and they've got a lot of playmakers. You're talking about some of the best linebacker play in the NFL with Quincy Williams and with C.J. Mosley, and then one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL with Sauce Gardner. And so you put those together with a really, really solid defensive tackle in Quinnen Williams, who had 5.5 sacks last year. And you've got the makings of a very talented Jets defense. And so they are effective. They are good. And when you look at their offense, though, this is where you have some more question marks. You bring in Nathaniel Hackett last year, and Nathaniel Hackett had just struggled mightily with the Denver Broncos. Of course, he was offensive coordinator with Aaron Rodgers at Green Bay, and then now he's with the Jets. So Rodgers feels comfortable with Nathaniel Hackett and believes that he can get the job done. So Nathaniel Hackett's offense was absolutely anemic last year without Aaron Rodgers. So we really don't know what Hackett and Aaron Rodgers can put together now that they're reunited. So this is going to be an interesting. It's kind of uncharted territory. We thought we were going to get to see it last year. Rodgers goes down, play 4 with the Achilles injury, and so now he's looking to rebound. And they've got good players on offense as well. A very, very talented wide receiver in Garrett Wilson, dynamic playmaker who runs great routes, can make plays once he gets the ball in his hands. So we know he's going to do fantastic. You got a big-time running back in Breece Hall, and if he gets rolling downhill, it's going to be problems for any team that they play. You throw in the tight end Conklin, he does a great job as well. Then they added in a couple of guys to help this football team a little bit more. In the draft, they got Malachi Corley, who is supposed to be kind of like the Jets' version of Deebo Samuel within this offense, guy who creates with the ball in his hands. Once he gets it, he's going to be a dynamic playmaker in this league as long as he can get some open space. And I think he probably can. And then they brought in Mike Williams from the Chargers. And even though Mike Williams struggles to stay healthy, when he is healthy, he's dynamic. You're talking about a tall, big wide receiver that has 4.3 speed. I don't know if he still has it now with all the injuries, but he's still a vertical threat that can push the ball down the field. So weapons there. Then you look at just some guys that he's comfortable with. Aaron Rodgers, a guy like Alan Lazard, who he feels comfortable with all the time in Green Bay together. So they got enough weapons for this offense. Can Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers come up with a game plan that works? They run a ton of 11 personnel, which is not uncommon in the NFL today. That means you have 3 wide receivers on the field. That has kind of become the norm, which forces teams to play a nickel package. And for the 49ers, that means Charvarius Ward, Dio Lenor, and Isaac Yedem will be the 3 corners out there for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, we look at the 49ers coaching staff. Kyle Shanahan, we know what we're getting with Kyle Shanahan. He's going to have a very creative offense that is completely tied together. And what I mean by tied together is the run game marries with the passing game and the play action game, and things look the same, and it's very confusing. And so defenses think they're seeing one thing and they're actually getting another. It's also a very balanced offense. You're talking about a team that ran the ball nearly 49% of the time, leading the NFL. It wasn't even close. 49ers run the ball more than any other team in the NFL, and that's part of the reason that they're so successful is that balanced part of this game. They have explosive plays and an explosive offense led by Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey. Every single one of them can house call a play at any moment. So 49ers throw together a really good running game that rushed for nearly 1,500 yards last year, 4.8 yards per carry on the ground, 140 yards per game. Was dynamic. You throw that in with the explosive plays from Brock Purdy, the MVP caliber season that he had, and the 49ers have all the makings of a very talented offense again in 2024, an offense that sees them return every starter, including Jawan Jennings, except for the fact that Dominic Pooney is starting at right guard. The young rookie is going to get his first action against Javon Kinlaw, a familiar face for 49er fans, and, of course, Quinnen Williams, and that could be an absolutely interesting matchup. But Dominic Pooney has impressed in his time that he started so far during the preseason. Now, Nick Sorensen is going to be a little bit of a question mark for the San Francisco 49ers, though I feel very confident in Nick Sorensen's ability to call defense. A former NFL player who's been not just with Pete Carroll in his time with Seattle, but also spent time under DeMeco Ryans as he was a defensive assistant and then later a nickel coach of Coach Nickelbacks. So you got a really talented coach here, but it's going to be his first time calling plays. And so that's always something that you have to monitor. Some of these guys like DeMeco, once they figure it out 2, 3, 4 games in the year, they just go like gangbusters and they're fantastic. But how quickly will Nick Sorensen figure this thing out? Well, the 49ers are trying to help Nick Sorensen with that process, game planning and putting together some things that marry the defense together the same way the 49ers offense is. Everything's tied together. They brought in Brandon Staley, the former defensive coordinator of the Rams and the former head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, and he's going to be in the booth helping out Coach Nick Sorensen. So you're not just getting Nick Sorensen as a guy who's a noob who doesn't have anyone to help him. He has a very talented and a very accomplished former defensive coordinator that's going to be able to talk with him, and they're going to make decisions together. So Sorensen's got some support here as he looks to get into his first year. Now, the 49ers are going to run a lot of cover 4, a lot of Palms coverage. They're going to mix it up with some cover 1, and I think we're going to see some unique looks in how they go about a pre to post snap, trying to keep Aaron Rodgers on his heels a little bit. Also, I look for the 49ers to blitz more than the Jets do. There was an aggressive style that came from DeMeco Ryans that we didn't see with Robert Saleh. Saleh was more let those front 4 guys do their job and get the work done, and they were really good, and it worked for them. And I think when it comes to the Jets, they don't do a lot of blitzing. They do run a lot of stunts up front. So that's what you'll see from them. With the 49ers, they will dial it up. Brandon Staley loves to bring blitzes. And when you look at Nick Sorensen, he has been aggressive so far through the preseason and what I saw at training camp. So you're going to get more aggressive style from the 49ers defense, and that's going to be a lot of fun to see. Now, when we're talking about offenses for both teams, of course, we know that you got to stop the run. And the 49ers are going to try to establish a run game against a Jets defense that gave up 124 yards a game last year. And so the Jets ultimately need to get a lot better when it comes to stopping the run. And with the 49ers being so good on the ground with Christian McCaffrey, I think they're going to definitely make that a point of emphasis to stop McCaffrey in the run game. But if the 49ers can establish a running game in this matchup with Christian McCaffrey, that's going to open up the rest of their offense. They're going to be able to start running play action. They're going to start being able to boot. They're going to get those linebackers coming forward. They're going to create voids in the back end. Plus, if the Jets have to get aggressive to stop the 49ers run game and bring one of those safeties into the box, which they will, Chuck Clark will come into the box, that will open things down the field for Brandon Ayuk and for George Kittle to make big plays down the field. So we've got a emphasis for the 49ers to get a run game going and for the Jets to stop it. Now, the Jets made some changes along the defensive line. They brought in Javon Kinlaw from San Francisco. The problem is Kinlaw has not done very well when it comes to stopping the run. In fact, over the last 2 seasons, he's graded below a 37 points for PFF's grade system. So he has not been effective. And just watching every single play he played last year on all 22, which I break down over on Patreon, I just see that Javon Kinlaw is not very good at being a run stopper. He was a lot better last year at putting pressure on the quarterback, and he still could be dynamic there. That matchup with Dominic Pooney is going to be interesting. But I think when it comes to stopping the run, it's going to be difficult. And the problem is the first guy rotating in is Solomon Thomas. And Solomon Thomas's grade is under 50 when he plays defensive tackle. So these two guys are not great at stopping the run. Now, Leonard Taylor, the rookie, we'll see what he could do. But Quentin Williams is great. He's going to be able to do it all. The worry is what happens with the other two defensive tackles against this 49ers run offense. And the run offense is not as simple as man up and go run them over. But it's very strategic running the outside zone, running the gap scheme. They're going to also be able to take advantage of traps, because one thing that we've noticed about Solomon Thomas and Javon Kinlaw through the years is they run a very penetrating scheme. 49ers do as well. It's all about getting upfield and creating havoc, and those guys both do. But the problem is they go up out of control. And we've seen, especially Solomon Thomas in his time in San Francisco, go upfield and get trapped and get wham blocked and create opportunities in the run game. So I could see the 49ers taking advantage of that. And we've seen them not just wham block with tight ends like George Kittle or with a fullback like Kyle Juszczyk, but also with a wide receiver like Jawan Jennings. Those are when you get some dynamic runs. So I think this is one of those things that they're going to have to pay attention to. Kinlaw and Solomon Thomas have to be more disciplined in their way that they attack and penetrate into the backfield. If they come up with reckless abandon and do not recognize where the ball's coming and do not see pullers coming back towards them, they might get trapped and whammed and create some huge opportunities in the run game for the 49ers. Now, 49ers defensive line have to worry about similar thought processes. Don't come up the field with reckless abandon and worry about that. But those are some advantages I think the 49ers have when it comes to the running game and getting that established, is that potential of getting Kinlaw moving, getting Solomon Thomas moving, and finding necessary gaps. The key is, can the 49ers handle those guys and get their linemen to the second level onto CJ Mosley, onto Quincy Williams, and make sure those guys aren't as effective? How good is Chuck Clark and Adams going to be coming downhill and making tackles from the safety position? Those are going to be interesting as well. So that's one of the keys for the 49ers in this game, the run game with Christian McCaffrey. Now, coming off that, because the 49ers run so much 21, 22 personnel, which is two running backs, one tight end, or two running backs, two tight ends, you're going to get a heavy look from the Jets. So that will take Michael Carter, their best nickel or their nickel corner, off the field and put on a young linebacker in Jamian Sherwood to play Sam. And this is a place the 49ers can take advantage of, running the ball at Sherwood and also getting key matchups for McCaffrey against Sherwood in the passing game. 49ers also will put Debo in the backfield sometimes and use him to get a key matchup against a linebacker. And I like Debo against any of those linebackers, but especially against Sherwood. So Kyle Shanahan using his certain formations, formation shifts and motions should help the 49ers be able to locate and get the matchups they're looking for. So McCaffrey versus Sherwood could be something interesting in this game. And with the 49ers running so much 21 personnel, they're going to keep Michael Carter off the field a lot. Of course, they still run, traditionally they'll still run some 11 personnel, but predominantly that's not what they do within this offense. And they're very effective with what they do with Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle on the field. And speaking of George Kittle versus those safeties, Clark and Adams, is going to be a key matchup as well. Can the 49ers get Kittle the ball in space? I think it's going to be one of the funnest things to see. I think they can. I think this is a opportunity for Kittle to have a big game and get this thing started. And let's forget, a lot of people do forget that last year George Kittle was the only tight end in the NFL that went over 1,000 yards receiving. So even though he was kept in the block a lot, he's asked to do a lot of blocking in the run game. There's not a lot of targets out there for him or Ayuk or Debo because they spread the wealth. He still led the league with 1,000 yards last year at the tight end position, and I expect him to have some success against Clark and Adams. I think that they can kind of scheme this thing up to get him the ball, and if that run game gets established, George Kittle in the play-action passing game could be absolutely lethal for the New York Jets, but we'll see. When it comes to defense, the San Francisco 49ers have to stop the run. If the Jets are able to come out in their 11 personnel with 3 receivers on the field, which they run the most, and run the ball effectively with Breece Hall, it's going to be hard for the 49ers. If they establish a running game and they're able to eat up yards and eat up clock with Aaron Rodgers and Breece Hall, the 49ers are going to be in trouble because the 49ers need to force third and long situations against Rodgers. They need to be able to make opportunities where he can't just get rid of the football very quickly with his accuracy, his quick release, and pick up 3 or 5 yards and get a first down on third. They need 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8. So that way, Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, Javon Hargrave, Malik Collins can get pressure on him and get him down. That's how they're going to get off the field on 3rd down. But if they're having early down success in the run game, and all of a sudden Fred Warner and Devondre Campbell are having to come up to stop the run, it will create avenues for Aaron Rodgers to get the ball to Conklin and Garrett Wilson. And one of the emphasis for the 49ers this year is taking away the middle of the field and not allowing that to be a weakness and forcing throws and long throws to the outside. So they've got to make sure they stop the run. And every team coming up right now is going to test the 49ers run defense. 49ers run defense gave up 4.1 yards per carry last year. Now there has been some changes. Javon Kinlaw is gone. Now he's with the Jets. So he wasn't very good against the run. He's out. They bring in Malik Collins, who I mentioned just a second ago, And Collins isn't known for his run stopping. He's more of a pass rusher. He has had some good reps against the run in the preseason. But Jordan Elliott, who they brought over from Cleveland, is better when it comes to stopping the run. He has a 40% win rate on run plays. So that's a pretty good job. A 40% run block win rate is a good stat. That's top 6 in the NFL. So Jordan Elliott should help a little bit when he comes in. Him and Kevin Givens, he could potentially help. Now, because of the scheme that Nathaniel Hackett runs, there's going to be a lot of movement. So the 49ers defensive tackles who are predicated on speed, this is where they have an advantage. They're able to get across the offensive lineman's face, get into the backfield, and wreak havoc. So these kind of quick defensive linemen are built to stop these style of offenses. Of course, you have to get good edges set. So that means Bosa, Floyd, Robert Beal Jr., who's probably going to be defensive end 3, and Sam Okuwanu, who's going to probably be defensive end 4 with the injury to Etor Gross-Matos. Those guys are going to have to set the edge in the run game and make sure that you don't give a lot of space. The more space that's created, the more difficult it is for those linebackers to be able to get there. So that's going to be really, really tough. The other thing they're going to have to watch is to see if the Jets run any of the toss crack. So this has been a bugaboo for the 49ers since the playoffs last year. The Green Bay Packers, the Detroit Lions, the Kansas City Chiefs all ran toss crack. They would hit down on that defensive end. They would get around the outside, and that's where they would run the play. So if I was the Jets, I would test the 49ers early and often to see if they're able to handle that toss crack. One thing that needs to happen, those linebackers and cornerbacks need to yell to that defensive end that the crack is coming so they don't get put on the ground and they can fight against it and try to stretch that play out. Then your cornerback on the outside has to come up and be a force defender and turn the play in. And then your alley defender, if it's on Dio Lenor's side, he's got to get up there and he's got to make the tackle. And if it's opposite of Dio Lenor, if they're a nickel, then it's got to be the safety. So Jair Brown or George Odom, they've got to come downhill and make that tackle, and they can't miss it. They got to make a play. So that's going to be tested earlier. The toss crack is something that the Jets can definitely try and go to, and establishing the run is going to be definitely one of the keys that they need to get done in this game. So the run game for both teams is going to be very important. For the Jets also, it's going to be about getting Garrett Wilson established, getting some rhythm with him going. 49ers need to make sure they take him away. And so we'll see. I don't know. I don't think the 49ers are going to travel Charvarius Ward with Garrett Wilson. They have been willing to do it before, but usually it was guys like DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown who are bigger, more physical receivers. I think they feel confident, whether it's Charvarius Ward or Dio Lenor. We'll see how confident they feel with Isaac Yedem. Maybe they'll go with him as well. He looked really good during training camp. And so that could be what they do as well. So the Jets are going to try to get Breece Hall going. They're going to try to get the ball to Garrett Wilson. 49ers have to slow the run game and try to limit the effectiveness of Garrett Wilson. You can't stop him, but you can at least limit his effectiveness and not let him get out of control. Because if that happens, that'll start opening the door for Malachi Corley and for Conklin and for others. And it'll just make it more difficult to stop this Jets offense. Now let's look at some of the keys to win. And one of the first things is you must force 3rd and long if you're the 49ers. I brought this up a second ago, but this is one of those keys. The Jets were literally the worst team last year on 3rd down conversion rate at 26%. And I know for sure that that's going to be a lot better with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Last year, it was an anemic offense led by, quarterbacks that just couldn't execute at a high level. So I expect that number to go up. Now, part of the reason I say that is because the 49ers, when it comes to 3rd down conversion rate, they converted at 47% on 3rd down. They were one of the top teams in the league. And so if you can convert on 3rd down, it's key. But when you look at the Jets, if you can get off the field on 3rd down and not allow them to get first downs, that's going to be huge for this football team. 3rd down conversion rate is always big. You want to hold teams under 40% when it comes to getting first downs. You can get off the field and hold them under 40% offensive effectiveness on 3rd down. That's when you're going to have a chance to win. It's when they get up to 45% or beyond that they are absolutely dominating. So 49ers need to be really good on 3rd down defensively. Last year, the 49ers gave up 3rd down conversions at a 41% rate. So Uh, that's not great. You got to get that under 40%. And I think that's a big reason why Brandon Staley's in San Francisco now. Brandon Staley has had a really good third down rate at his time, not just as a coordinator, but as a head coach as well. In fact, one year when he was with the Rams in 2020, it was down to 35%, which is elite. Anything 35% and below, stopping teams on third down is fantastic. So that's one area the 49ers look to get better. That's the difference between being a good defense and being elite, is getting off the field on third down, getting that ball back into your offense's hands. And that's what they're going to try to do. Now, I talked about the 49ers being 47% conversion rate on offense, which is really, really good. Anything above 45 and close to 50 is elite. They did a really good job on third down because they faced less third and longs. They had third and manageable. That's what you have to do. Now, the Jets' defense was good last year on third down, 37% conversion rate on third downs. That's really, really good. I talked about being close to elite, and they faced a lot of third down situations, and the fact they kept at 37%, they kept the team in the games last year. So 49ers, this is kind of one of those irresistible force meets the immovable object. 49ers are really good on third down. Jets are really good on third down on defense, and you're going to have to find, some way. 49ers got to get it done. They got to get this above 40%, and the Jets want to keep it under. And then 49ers got to get off the field on third down when it comes to stopping Aaron Rodgers. Now, one thing that's interesting about 49ers team last year was how effective they were in the red zone. Last year, the 49ers scored touchdowns on 68% of their red zone trips. Number one in the NFL. So they were the best offense in the red zone. And we saw that effectively during the playoffs. When they got in the red zone, they just couldn't be stopped. Christian McCaffrey is a big reason why they were one of the tops in the entire league. Brock Purdy also, his emergence and Kyle Shanahan's offense definitely helped. He was 87.4 PFF overall grade, and that was sixth best among quarterbacks as far as on offense, and that's fantastic when it comes to the red zone. Also, Christian McCaffrey was fantastic in the red zone as well. He had 13 touchdowns, and he forced a 0.21 missed tackle per attempt while having a 67.3 PFF grade in the red zone. So Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy are the reason that we've seen a huge jump in how good the 49ers have been, getting more touchdowns than field goals. It was really, really good. And the red zone passing attack got even better. It was the best in the NFL at a 0.46. That is way better. Buffalo was second at a 0.36. 49ers weapons and Kyle Shanahan using Christian McCaffrey running the ball made them an absolute force in the red zone. So that's something that the Jets are going to have to deal with. The Jets overall, though, when you look at them last year in the red zone on offense, they converted touchdown rate at 32%. That was worst in the NFL. So you can, I know it's hard to look at their numbers because Aaron Rodgers is going to inflate them. So I went back and looked at the last time that Hackett and Rodgers were together in Green Bay back in 2021, and Green Bay was at 57%. So it was definitely a lot more effective in the red zone back then. So I'm more so pointing out the 49ers red zone rate, but I wanted to give a little bit to what the Jets did last year. But 49ers were absolutely fantastic in the red zone when it came to offense, and not bad on defense either. They finished 8th best red zone defense last year. So that's how you do it. You score in the red zone on offense, you play good red zone defense, you force field goals, and that's how you're really effective. Now, when it comes to turnovers, you have to limit turnovers, and both the 49ers and Jets created a lot of turnovers last year. 49ers, 28 turnovers that they created. Jets, 27. Now, the difference was the 49ers were plus 10 in turnover margin because Brock Purdy and the 49ers offense took care of the ball, where the Jets were minus 6. They turned over the ball way too much. That should get a lot better with Aaron Rodgers at the helm for the Jets. So turnover battle is always huge. If you win the turnover battle in this game, you're probably going to win the football game. So Rodgers will make them better, but both teams get their hands on the ball, and that's something that we're going to have to monitor and see how it goes. But I expect the 49ers to continue that trend. Brock Purdy taking care of the football and not running into problems. And then I think that the Jets will be a lot better. But both teams good at turnovers and both really good defensive teams. But now it's time to get into my wow, that's bold predictions.
Wow, that's really bold. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
It's got to be wow. It's got to be bold. Wow, that's bold predictions. First ones of the year. Occasionally I hit on these things. So I'm always curious what you guys say too. So leave your wow, that's bold predictions in the comment section. I'd love to see them. So my wow, that's bold offensive bold predictions for this game is I think George Kittle, I mentioned it a little bit, that he's going to have a big game, and I think he is. I think he's going to have over 80 yards receiving and a touchdown. So he gets right off to a good start, just like he did last year, gets right back in the swing of things, 80 yards and a touchdown for George Kittle. And then I think Christian McCaffrey is going to have some more effectiveness in the run game. I think he's going to have a red zone touchdown. But I think this time another running back is going to have a red zone touchdown, and Jordan Mason. I got McCaffrey with a red zone touchdown and Jordan Mason with a red zone touchdown on the ground. So Kittle, 80 yards touchdown, McCaffrey, Mason, red zone touchdowns in the running game as part of my offensive wow, that's bold predictions. On defense, I think Dio Lenor has had one of the best training camps and preseasons of any player probably in the league, but for sure on the 49ers. He's been fantastic. And I think he's going to get it started in this game. I think he's going to get his hand on a football. And he's going to get an interception. Dio Lenor is going to force the turnover and get an interception off Aaron Rodgers. And then I think this 49ers run defense is going to show up. I think they're going to play really tough against Breece Hall in this running game. I think that the way that the matchup looks, the athleticism that this D-line has is going to play well against Nathaniel Hackett's offense and that scheme. And I think they're going to be able to slow up Breece Hall a little bit. I still think Hall will have some effectiveness, but I think they're going to stop him. I've got them holding Breece Hall under 75 yards rushing in this game. And so I think they're going to do a good job on the ground. I think they're going to get a lead, and then the Jets are going to have to play a little bit of catch-up. And when that happens, Aaron Rodgers is going to throw the ball a lot more than they're going to run. And so I think that those things happen in the wild. That's bold prediction. So Demo with an IAT, holding Breece Hall under 75 yards on the ground. Not an easy task, but the 49ers can definitely do it as long as they play run fits and do what they're supposed to do. We'll see if the Jets try to go with some heavier formations and attack DFF. We want to talk about all the key matchups. I have a video that came out yesterday, 49ers versus Jets key matchups. Go check that out. I went into extensively how the Jets can take advantage of Demetrius Flanagan fouls in this game. So that's something to go check out. But now it's time for the score prediction. Put your score predictions in the comment section down below as well. I'll check those out. But I've got this game being a little bit tighter than maybe some would think. But I do have it a one-score victory for the San Francisco 49ers. I have the San Francisco 49ers beating the New York Jets 24-16. I think both defenses are really good. I think 30 points would be hard for each team to get to. And I think what happens is the 49ers defense holds the Jets out of the end zone a couple of times, forcing field goals. That ends up being a big difference in this football game. You get George Kittle with the touchdown. You get the 2 touchdowns from the running backs, McCaffrey and Jordan Mason. And then you get a Jake Moody field goal on top of that. So I think it's going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to this game between the Jets and 49ers to kick off the season. I have the 49ers starting 1-0. What do you have? If you're a Jets fan, let me know what you think the score is going to be. I think you have a good football team, and I'm guessing you're going to pick the Jets to win, and that's okay. I want to see what you say as well. But I'd like to thank you all for joining me for the game preview show. Of course, after the game, join me. I will be going live for my game reaction show. Join me for that. That's always a lot of fun. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Of course, this is 49ers Cutback on Believe. It is brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.